This video is brought to you by my run in Melbourne Fringe. That's right, I got a couple of shows in the Melbourne Fringe Festival coming up, and I'd love for you guys to come check them out. I won't bang on too much about them now. I have decided we will break up this video into its component parts. So there'll be a second part to this video that you guys should check out when that drops, not too far from now. But until then, enjoy this video. Come check us out in the Melbourne Fringe.
Alright, so let's have a little chat about Clive Palmer. Some of you, if you're an Australian audience, which you most likely are, then the Palmer's going to be very familiar with you. Like, he had a very aggressive YouTube campaign during the election, and to be honest, some of you outside of Australia may have heard of him because he's done some pretty wild stuff. But anyway, he was running for Parliament again. He left, he tried to come back because he was inspired by Donald Trump, because if Donald Trump can do it, then apparently he thought he could do it too. So, former minister and former nickel mine owner and current man who owes his workers a lot of money, returned to run for Parliament. Now, he had these billboards plastered everywhere. Like, you can't have missed them. They were all over the place. And not to mention his ads, supposedly he spent between 50 and 55 million on his re-election campaign. That's an insane effort at exposure. Now, initially, he anchored his entire campaign around a poor man version of the Trump slogan. His was "Make Australia Great," which kind of missing the fundamental point of the slogan that he's ripping off, which was that the country that he's talking about was once great. This sort of just implies that this is not a great country and that we need to make it so. Whoops. These billboards did inspire Australia to get creative, though. He called his party the United Australia Party, and he certainly did unite us. He united us in taking up the biggest arts and crafts project we've undergone. Clive Palmer's United Party had at least 18 candidates who had parents who were born overseas. Now, that alone does not make them ineligible to run under Section 44, because the circumstances of citizenship vary from country to country. A nation might concede citizenship automatically when a person becomes an Australian citizen, while others require a declaration of renunciation, right? So there's different ways under which this could have gone, but Section 44 stuff, it's far from the weirdest thing to surface from this election, from this particular group of people in the election. United Australia Party candidates included a woman who lied about being a professor, a man who lied about being related to an ex-prime minister, an anti-vaxxer, and a man who called the children of taxi drivers, quote, future terrorists. Classy bunch. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Clive Palmer owes his former employees money. He claimed that while the election was running, he wouldn't be taking care of these payments. Apparently, he set up an account with the remaining millions, yes, that's right, millions, I'll say it again, millions, that he owes his former employees inside a bank account. Right? And that his employees would be able to claim said owed back payments if, which is always a good start, if they prove they worked at the mine. And you might be saying, of course they have to prove that they were former employees. You can't just give money to anybody. And you're right. You do have to prove that you're a former employee. But you know what? The onus of proof shouldn't be on the employees. Because Clive's company, being a multi-million-dollar mining company, would have had extensive details on all of their former employees, names, addresses, bank details. Although, given he wasn't paying anybody, maybe he doesn't have their bank details. Maybe that was the problem all along. They all forgot to give their bank details. Whoopsie. So now they've got to come in, they've got to prove who they are to get this money. I mean, who does he think he is? Centrelink? Come on. This isn't the robo-debt. Just give the people what you owe them. Brian Weissman, man who I also have never heard of. a former Home and Away actor turned United Australia Party candidate, quit Clive Palmer's United Australia Party because its campaign paraphernalia was made in China. Despite his relentless YouTube campaign specifically attacking sending jobs overseas to China, but that's just him mimicking his hero Trump, doing whatever he's going to do to get those votes. He came out with his campaign that he called Shifty Shorten, because everybody loves alliteration. He claims that those ads put Scott Morrison in the lodge, the Kirribilli house. So let's take a little look at that ad. Okay, so he's claiming that Shorten would have created $1 trillion in tax. $1 trillion in tax. That is under the actual GDP of Australia, but it's pretty damn close. The actual GDP of Australia is 1.3 trillion, so we're not really far off. If these ads are what turned the tide on Shorten, then we got exactly what we deserved, exactly what was coming our way. And to be honest, there was just over 438,000 people who voted for United Australia. So who could even say that we didn't get exactly what we deserve? Whew. Alright, let's keep going on. United Australia Party hopeful Stuart Hine was running in the Victorian electorate of Nichols. He approached a local newspaper trying to seek favourable media coverage in exchange for buying advertising. So good start, good work, buddy. So Heinz is a mortgage broker whose business has a super appropriate for potential bribery slogan: "I'll show you the money." How good is that? I'll show you the money. The dude who tried to bribe newspapers runs a business with the slogan, "I'll show you the money." That's so good. Clive Palmer's political party spent tens of millions of dollars on an ad blitz across the country. And the Shepparton News was told that it could receive a slice of that pie. So that sweet Palmer pie. In emails published by the ABC, Mr. Hines sent the paper an exclusive story opportunity, which was actually just a media release. And he asked them to run it on a particular... So he was trying to bribe the newspaper to run... I can get the newspaper to run a media release. It's not a hard thing to do. You don't exactly have to bribe your way in. Anyway, let's move on. Onto a different party. The National Party. Forming the coalition with the Liberals, the Lib Nat Party. The Nationals were surprisingly quiet this campaign. At least from what I could find. The Deputy Prime Minister, Michael McCormack, has labelled young voters a, quote, big problem in the lead up to the federal election. So here's a quote from him. "One of the biggest problems we've got this election is the fact that we've got a lot of young people voting for the first time, who have probably never known how good they've got it. Look, if I'm honest, given how scared the Nationals are of the youth vote, I am eagerly awaiting them reintroducing conscription so that they can literally kill the youth vote. I'm out of conscription age, so theoretically I should be fine, but we almost ended up following America into a war with Iran. Ample opportunity to conscript those youngins. Get them in there. But the Nationals, in maybe the Nationals move, just seem to be confused about how to get voters to change their vote to another party. And they put out this ad, which is supposedly a message to Labour voters to get them to vote National. But if you look at it, it does just look like the Nationals candidate is endorsing Labour's listing of preferences. This is why the Nationals are scared of the young vote. They don't know how to use the internet. They don't know what's going on. I like this one. So the Nationals tried to attack an independent candidate. His name is Rob Oakeshott. Now, the attack ad implied that he's never worked a real job in his life, only government jobs, which is a particularly strange stance for a government body to take. Look, I get that the National Party are really aimed at rural voters and farmers, hardworking, salt of the earth types, people who would look at me doing this sort of thing and tell me to get a real job. The kind of person who once took my hand, examined it for signs of hard labour, and then berated me for my soft hands, saying I'd never worked a hard day in my life. So I get it. I get who their base are. But also, they failed to realise exactly what they've said. Fortunately, Rob realised, because he released a response to the ad, dissecting the comments about his job history and pointing out that the attack slogan, "Tell Rob it's time to get a real job," more than slightly implies that they don't think that the seat of Cowper, which is where they were running, is a real job. Which is a solid burn on them. It's so brilliant. So good. But the best thing to happen to the Nationals since the election day, Barnaby Joyce, former leader of the National Party until it was proven that he was a New Zealand citizen and was ousted by Section 44. And shining beacon on the hill of family values. But probably best known as the man who tried to euthanize Johnny Depp's dogs. So if you weren't sure who he was, you should be up to date now. So Barnaby Joyce lost his job. Now, the loss of a job, generally speaking, isn't a thing to be celebrated. Barnaby Joyce is a pretty awful man. But he was somewhat surprised to find out that he'd lost his job when he heard it reported on Sky News. And by reported, I mean he saw it tweeted by Sky News, which is just so good. They're both so awful. But you know what? The enemy of my enemy should just hurry up and destroy each other. We can all get along. I don't know. I might have to break this into two parts because this is getting really long. One Nation. Holy shit. One Nation. They had a hell of a campaign. Buckle in, it's going to be a wild one. So let's start with the most well-known one. Senate candidate Steve Dixon. He resigned after film of him drunkenly cavorting in a Washington DC strip club was screened on Channel 9's Current Affair. Now, this footage was part of an Al Jazeera sting that showed Dixon had been secretly captured on video with James Ashby, who was One Nation's media advisor. Like, you would think if anybody knew how to not get caught in a thing like this, it'd be One Nation's media advisor, but I digress. So they were courting the National Rifle Association, seeking funds for Pauline Hanson's One Nation. Now, with the promise to weaken Australians' gun laws if they gained the balance of power in the Australian Parliament, which is just awful and terrifying and awful. But anyway, they didn't succeed because Al Jazeera had conducted a 3-year-long operation to uncover this activity. It wasn't specifically aimed at One Nation, it was at gun lobbies and lobbyists, and they just happened to get swept up in all of this, which is just the perfect situation. But anyway, so here we go. So there was a 3-year-long undercover sting. They had this guy called Roger Muller pose as the head of a fake gun lobby called Gun Rights Australia. Then, having Muller record meetings he attended with Dixon and Ashby, speaking to Muller, Dixon said, quote, "If they threw $10 million at us, we could fucking win heaps of seats. Put a shitload of seats in the Senate. Mate, if you make this shit happen, I'll make sure we open any fucking door you need open." End quote. Like a true patriot, just taking money, selling off Australia. So many people have done it before. It's the Australian way. The pair, in a press conference, excused themselves with the excuse that they were drunk. Right? Now, this didn't take them down, despite the hugeness of this revelation. It wasn't until further footage leaked of Dixon at a Washington DC strip club attempting to solicit sexual favours, groping a dancer's breasts, and making derogatory comments towards the dancers and other women. So in the video, which excerpts were played on Channel 9's Current Affair, Dixon is heard saying, "I've done more Asians than I know what to do with," because he's a class act and a king among men. Ironically, given that he is in the party of Pauline, we're being swamped by Asians, Hanson. This is a weird brag, which is probably why this happened. Pauline Hanson cried in an interview over candidates letting her down. I mean, all the people she was crying about were white men. So, really, she is being swamped by idiots. What do you expect? Seriously, what do you expect when that's the policies that you put out? But anyway, on the show, she decried how she'd been let down horribly by her candidates. Another candidate then stepped forward to take a crack at the prize for Australia's dumbest politician, one Ross McDonald, by putting a Facebook page devoted to what I did on my holiday in Thailand, which contains exactly the kind of photos you would expect from a folder titled "What I Did on My Holiday in Thailand." Then he posted this gem with the post, interesting thoughts. Are they? Are they, Ross McDonald? Because I don't think they are that interesting. I think that they're pretty easy to guess. Pauline Hanson also stood by One Nation candidate Stuart Bond, who was filmed making derogatory comments about women and gay people, saying, "The only thing worse than a gay person is saying, the only thing worse than a gay person with power is a woman." He added, "I don't have a woman boss. I don't have a gay boss. And there's a reason for that." Despite running as a One Nation candidate, who this very year changed their name to that of party matriarch Pauline Hanson, of Pauline Hanson's One Nation party, which would effectively make her his boss. To be honest, he's still part of the party. This is the most perplexing thing. He's still part of the party. Supposedly he received 20% of the vote in the Hunter Valley. I guess the strategy of, according to former Rudd Cabinet Minister Joel Fitzgibbon, hiding the One Nation candidate away after his first week and just emphasising Pauline Hanson. I mean, people were obviously influenced by her scare campaign. To the old, out of sight, out of mind. Gets the job done. Speaking of her scare campaign, she had this billboard. I think I need to say anything else about that. It's just awful. Whew. Nearly there, guys. We are out of the major parties. Let's talk about the independents. There's only a couple of independents to talk about. Triple J presenter and youth voice Alex Rat Dog Dyson threw his hat into the ring at the last minute for the federal seat of Wannon in regional Victoria. Dyson released a video where he broadly outlined the policies on which he'll be running via the medium of interpretive dance. So let's have a look at that. Yep, can see why he didn't get in. That's it for the independents, really. Let's get back to some of these weirder parties. Fraser Anning's Conservative National Party. Now, those of you who live in Australia will know Fraser Anning. Those of you who live outside Australia will vaguely remember references to Fraser Anning on John Oliver's Last Week Tonight. Fraser Anning's Conservative National Party candidate in Bendigo, Julie Hoskin, competed her her AEC declaration, completed her AEC declaration, ticking the box indicating that she is an undischarged bankrupt, which makes her ineligible to run under Section 44. So much Section 44. Now this is an interesting party. They're called the Great Australia Party. Former One Nation Senator, so One Nation, at it again. Former One Nation Senator turned independent Rob Colton also nominated for election to the Senate. Now the AEC has asked the Australian Federal Police to examine if Mr. Colton has made a false declaration on his nomination from the West Australian Senate ballot paper. Colton was found to be ineligible to sit in the Parliament by the High Court in February 2017, as he was and remains an undischarged bankrupt. Nevertheless, Colton's name remains on the ballot because he refuses to acknowledge the Constitution except in its original form as it was written at Federation. Because he's an interesting guy. Now, the AEC is not an enforcement body, and nor should it be. But the way our electoral laws stand at the moment means that almost anyone who nominates will be placed on the ballot, which is a weird little trick. I mean, obviously at some point they'd get done. I don't think they could get in. It's weird that's a thing still. Anyway, and we've come to the end. Some quick news that's not related to any party. Kerry Kennelly, who broadcasts on morning television here in Australia, seemingly forgetting that she was on television during a federal election, went on air and claimed that if Bill Shorten was elected in, it would be the end of life as we know it. Now, if I'm honest, I'm not sure that most of Carrie Ann's viewers are living a comparable life to that of a multi-millionaire morning show host. So I'm not sure that the panic that she injected into her morning show viewers was really something that they could relate to. But finally, this is the greatest thing to have come out of this election. Sportsbet. They proved that gambling is always reliable and always worth the chance. Because the company lost $5.2 million due to an early payout on Bill Shorten, because they were so confident that he was going to win because of exit poll data that they just started paying out before the election was even done. The sports, they made good on all the payments too. They haven't gone back on their word. With Sportsbet said 2 days before the election that Mr. Shorten was at, quote, winks like odds of $1.16 to win, which he didn't. If you weren't following, he didn't. Scott Morrison got back in. So that was the election. If you hung around to the end, thanks. Really appreciate it. It's the kind of thing I think I want to do some more of. That was kind of fun to do. And I'll try and get another one of these up relatively soon. It'll be not as long, with much less election talk. But if you're interested in supporting me, come to check something cool out. I'm going to be doing the Melbourne Fringe Festival. I've got 2 shows in the Fringe Festival. Those will be announced later when I'm officially allowed to announce them later, but just know Fringe Festival is coming up. You guys should come check out my live shows. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll be back at some point when I get some more stories to talk about.